Good evening. Thanks for joining us. You're watching News at 10 with me, Azlani. COVID-19 vaccine recipients aged 60 and above, regardless of their primary vaccine type, and Sinovac vaccine recipients aged 18 and above must obtain a booster jab by February next year to maintain their fully vaccinated status. Health Minister Khairy Jamaluddin said the proposal was approved at the COVID-19 Booster Immunisation Task Force CITFB meeting on 8 December. The minister explained that those who fail to get the booster jab will have their MySejahtera status to turn white, which indicates the individual's vaccination status to be incomplete. As such, these individuals will not be eligible for the facilities provided to those who have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Khairy also said the Mega Vaccination Centres PPV would be reactivated to speed up the administration of booster doses. Malaysia has detected the second case of COVID-19 Omicron variant involving its citizen, an 8-year-old girl who returned from Lagos, Nigeria on 5th December. Khairy said the case was detected after the Institute of Medical Research, IMR, conducted the PCR genotyping assay test on 52 samples from 52 positive cases among travellers returning to Malaysia between 6th and 10th December. He said of the total, only one sample identified the possible presence of Omicron variant, and a further test involving whole genome sequencing conducted on the sample on Tuesday verified it.
Kes tidak mempunyai gejala dan diarahkan menjalani isolasi di rumah selama 14 hari. Kontak rapat kepada kes terdiri daripada ibu, adik perempuan, bapa dan pemandu taksi yang membawa kes dan keluarganya dari KLIA ke tempat kediaman.
The health minister added that there were 35 contacts of the case during the flight, namely those seated in the 4 rows in front of and behind her, as well as on her left and right. He said their RT-PCR test result on the day of arrival and on the 5th day all came back negative. Meanwhile, Khairy said the results of the PCR genotyping assay carried out by the MOH found 18 other samples indicating the presence of the Omicron variant, and this can only be verified by the results of the whole genome sequencing, which are expected to be obtained tomorrow. He said these 18 cases are travellers from various countries. In the same development, Khairy also revealed Nigeria is the latest country to be categorized as a high-risk country by the Ministry of Health after detecting the second case of Omicron variant. He said travellers from Nigeria, as well as other high-risk countries, will need to wear a digital tracking device once they arrive in the country. To date, 9 countries have now been identified as high risk, and they are the United Kingdom, the United States, Denmark, Australia, France, Norway, Canada, India and Nigeria. Khairy also said that tighter measures will also be introduced for travellers from the UK due to rising cases of the Omicron variant there. He explained that travellers from the UK must conduct a self-test every day throughout the quarantine period and must report the result in MySejahtera application. In another development, the government has decided not to allow large-scale New Year's Eve and Christmas celebrations as it braces for the threat of the more transmissible COVID-19 Omicron variant. However, Khairy said smaller private parties were permitted, provided that all attendees perform a COVID-19 self-test before attending.
Penganjuran sambutan tahun baru secara besar-besaran adalah tidak dibenarkan. Bagi sambutan tahun baru dan perayaan Christmas kecil-kecilan secara private ataupun bersama dengan keluarga dan rakan-rakan private event dibenarkan buat masa ini, tetapi ujian pengesanan COVID-19 sebelum menghadiri sambutan tersebut perlu dilakukan. We are not allowing for big New Year's Eve gatherings, for private New Year's Eve gatherings, as well as for private Christmas celebrations. You will need to do a self-test before you go for those events.
The government plans to increase the daily quota for Malaysian and Singapore citizens travelling through the Vaccinated Travel Lane Land VTL Land facility to 2,100 people each way, according to the development of the COVID-19 situation. Senior Minister of International Trade and Industry, Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin Ali, said so far no quarantine was required due to the high vaccination rate in both countries.
Kerajaan senantiasa memantau situasi kesihatan semasa dan sekiranya ada sebarang indikasi Kementerian Kesihatan pastinya akan memberikan nasihat yang sewajarnya. Sebab itu kita membuka sempadan ini secara berhati-hati dan tidak secara mendadak. Dan jumlah kota harian masih ketika ini ditetapkan 1,440 orang untuk satu hala, dan pada 20 Disember ini sekiranya situasi membenarkan kita akan naikkan kepada 2,100 orang pengembara setiap hari satu hala.
The senior minister was responding to a supplementary question from Senator Dato' Jeffrey Din Atan in the Dewan Negara on whether the government plans to consider imposing quarantine order on VTL land travellers as a precautionary measure to prevent the entry of the Omicron COVID-19 variant. On Tuesday, the International Trade and Industry Ministry announced that all categories of travellers who are Malaysian and Singapore citizens will be able to enter both countries via the VTL land facility effective 20th December due to increased public demand. Dewan Rakyat has deferred debates on amendments to the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Amendment Bill 2021 Act 342 to this coming Monday. Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Azhar Azizan Harun announced that Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob had written to the Dewan Rakyat as head of the House seeking an additional day for debates on the bill. He said the Prime Minister, as head of the House, has written to Dewan Rakyat Secretariat seeking an additional day for debates to be held this Monday in accordance with Order 11, Subsection 2 of the Standing Orders. Health Minister Kari Jamaluddin then stood up to request that the bill be deferred for its second and third reading. The Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Amendment Bill 2021 was scheduled to be tabled for second reading and put to vote in Dewan Rakyat today. Malaysia has prepared strict standard operating procedures (SOP) for the entry of foreign workers, covering 4 stages to curb the risk of COVID-19 transmission. Human Resources Minister Datuk Seri M. Saravanan said the 4 stages are pre-departure, arrival, post-arrival, quarantine period and post-quarantine. He said the foreign workers are required to be fully vaccinated in their country of origin and enter Malaysia using a special lane when they arrive at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport.
Yang pertama adalah pre-kemasukan negara. Maksudnya di negara asal mereka kena menyediakan vaksin dan sebagainya. Itu yang pertama. Yang kedua, apabila mereka sampai ke negara kita, mereka akan dikuarantinkan di tempat-tempat khas yang disahkan oleh Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia KKM. Mengikut SOP baru dari segi buat PCR test hari pertama, hari ketiga, hari kelima dan hari ketujuh, dan selepas 14 hari baru mereka dipindahkan ke tempat kerja.
In addition, he said employers must provide a conducive accommodation as required under the Workers' Minimum Standards of Housing and Amenities Act 1990, Act 446. As for the entry of foreign domestic helpers, Datuk Seri Saravanan said the SOP is being studied by the ministry. Malaysia is expected to receive between 5,000 and 10,000 workers from Indonesia next year to work in the construction and manufacturing sectors and as domestic helpers. Coming up, Intel picks Malaysia for 30 billion ringgit chip plant. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Semasa said banks are requested to continue assisting borrowers facing financial difficulties in repaying their loans and to postpone legal action against defaulting borrowers. Borrowers who still need assistance are advised to immediately contact their respective banks to discuss appropriate restructuring and rescheduling options. In a statement today, he said the government takes note of the efforts of the banking sector, which does not take the easy way out by putting those who are really facing difficulties on the blacklist of borrowers or bankruptcy list. Although the bankruptcy rate has dropped by 50% after the economic sector began to open up gradually since last October, the Malaysian economy will take time to fully recover. In this regard, borrowers who are new or still find difficulty in getting employment, especially the B50 group, should be supported as much as possible until they are able to stand strong again to ensure survival. At the same time, the government, through the Malaysian Insolvency Department, has also increased the bankruptcy threshold to 100,000 ringgit to provide protection to those who may still be unable to survive financially due to the effects of the pandemic. This provision is made based on the Insolvency Act 1967 and the Temporary Measures to Reduce the Impact of Coronavirus Disease Act 2019. In a related development, the Prime Minister said to support the lower income group, the banking industry, together with the Credit Counselling and Debt Management Agency, is actively implementing the Financial Management and Resilience Program, URUS, for the lower income group affected by the pandemic. Under URUS, borrowers would be entitled to, among others, interest exemption for 3 months, loan moratorium or reduced loan repayment up to 2 years, as well as financial management support to enable greater financial resilience. Borrowers would also be given comprehensive help, including personalized financial planning, to ensure more meaningful long-term aid. Datuk Seri Semasa said the banking sector has also implemented URUS in a transparent manner to help the lower income group with a household income of up to 5,880 ringgit and those who have lost jobs or come up to 50% due to the pandemic. He added those who qualify for the facilities can contact the respective banks before 31st January next year. Apart from URUS, borrowers can also get other help from banks in line with their needs and financial capabilities. As rebuilding the economy is no easy feat, it is critical for Malaysians to remain united as the country navigates its way out of the economic downturn brought on by the pandemic. Datuk Seri Semasa said Malaysia's pro-business philosophy is evidenced by the government's commitment to the concept of a public-private partnership.
It is critical for all of us to remain united as we navigate our way out of the economic downturn brought on by the pandemic. Having said that, I call upon the private sector to be the catalyst for reform, to drive sustainability and contribute to our collective goal of making Malaysia even more resilient.
The Premier was speaking in his opening speech for the Global Chinese Economic and Technology GCET Summit today. The Prime Minister said Malaysia offers unparalleled advantages for investors, not just as a gateway to ASEAN, but also to markets of the world, and several international organizations in their latest reports attest to the efficacy of the policies implemented by the government. However, Datuk Seri Semasa said in recognizing China's economic potential, Malaysia pioneered diplomatic outreach to the Republic and became the first ASEAN member state to formalize diplomatic relations with the Republic in 1974. He said, building upon this close and enduring friendship, Malaysia and China have continued to strengthen economic ties even during the current crisis, and China has been Malaysia's largest trading partner since 2009, accounted for 18.6% of Malaysia's total trade in 2020. US chip giant Intel Corp's 30 billion ringgit planned investment in Pulau Pinang is expected to create over 4,000 jobs as well as over 5,000 construction jobs in the country, according to International Trade and Industry Senior Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin Ali. Speaking at a press conference today, Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin highlighted that the latest investment bolsters Malaysia's role as a prominent site in Intel's global manufacturing network. He said the investment is impactful not just in terms of enabling Malaysia to scale up the volume of production, but also in terms of moving up the value chain of technology transfer and capacity building.
They are creating job opportunities for us, for the Malaysians, and these are high-quality jobs. And this is also in line with our NIA, National Investment Aspirations, where we are working very hard through MINA to attract high-quality investments, high technology, and certainly Intel is one of the leading global players in semiconductor industry. So we are.
Meanwhile, Intel Chief Executive Officer Patrick Pil-Gelsinger said the investment will build a rich ecosystem in building up overall technology capabilities of the Malaysian market.
As I like to say, we're not hunters, we're farmers. We come to build a rich ecosystem, a rich set of universities and community colleges and ecosystem partnerships and other startups here to build up the overall technology capabilities of the Malaysian market.
A completion date is projected somewhere in 2024. Johor Police have seized more than 350,000 ringgit worth of drugs during a raid at a house in the city centre. State Narcotics Chief ACP Muhammad Afzal Nizam Yahya said 4 suspects were arrested during the 5:30 p.m. raid on 7th December, including 2 Vietnamese women. He said the suspects are 2 local males and 2 foreign women, all aged between 26 and 31. In a statement today, he said all of the suspects have also tested positive for methamphetamine and ketamine and have been actively distributing drugs around Johor Bahru since early July this year. ACP Muhammad Afzal Nizam said that the syndicate's modus operandi was to use a gated and guarded house as a store to keep and pack their drugs. He then said that the group is believed to have received their supply of drugs from the north of Peninsular Malaysia. He said all of the confiscated drugs were worth around 353,250 ringgit, adding that the police also confiscated personal belongings and 2 vehicles worth 97,750 ringgit. All of the suspects are currently under remand until 18th December, and the case is being investigated under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act for drug trafficking. Youth and Sports Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Faizal Azumu today emphasised that local football players are as good as, while some are better than the naturalised players. He said the ministry remains committed to focusing on the development of sports and young players in the country.
Bagi sukan bola sepak, Program Pembangunan Bola Sepak Negara PPBN merupakan inisiatif yang memberikan penekanan kepada pembangunan pemain-pemain muda tempatan daripada seluruh negara. Selain itu, kita juga mengalu-alukan pemain-pemain berpengalaman yang mendapat status naturalisasi untuk membantu melatih pemain muda bagi meningkatkan prestasi sukan bola sepak negara.
He pointed out that the ministry could not control the naturalisation process of football players as the applications did not go through the ministry. He said the Football Association of Malaysia had also put off the naturalisation project following the team's poor performance in the 2023 World Cup Asian Cup qualifiers in Dubai, United Arab Emirates in June. The national football team must beat Indonesia in their final Group B clash in Singapore on Sunday, or they can forget about making the semi-finals of the AFF Cup 2020. National head coach Tan Cheng Ho has warned his men to be wary of the tricky task that awaits them, as Indonesia, who only need a draw to go through, are expected to adopt the kind of defensive tactic that they employed in the goalless draw with defending champions Vietnam yesterday. He also advised his men to be quick to adapt themselves to the situation during the game, especially from the tactical aspect, as the Garuda players are also capable of launching swift counter-attacks.
Probably we might think that they were playing a defensively, but if you watch the last two matches, they are playing very offensive. So we have to prepare our tactical ability. At the same time, we have to be flexible in any situation. So hopefully our players can adapt well and can nothing else. You have to go for a goal already. Yeah, for this.
Indonesia top Group B on goal difference, having accumulated 7 points so far, the same as second place Vietnam after 3 matches. Malaysia are third with 6 points, followed by Cambodia with 3 points, while Laos have yet to get a single point. That concludes this evening's News at 10. In our top story, Sinovac recipients and seniors must get boosters to stay fully vaccinated. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Azlani Adani. Stay tuned to Saluran Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening. Goodbye for now.